She's not your daughter. Don't correct her. Those words came out of my wife's mouth like a slap across my face, and they hit harder than any fist ever could. I'm Caleb, and that moment, that single sentence spoken in front of my entire family, changed everything. Let me back up. It was Sunday evening and I'd spent the entire day cooking. Smoked brisket that I'd been nursing since dawn, mac and cheese with 3 types of cheese, cornbread from my grandmother's recipe, collard greens simmered with smoked turkey. My brother Marcus was there with his wife Jenna and their 2 kids. This was supposed to be good. Family. Laughter. The kind of evening that makes you grateful. My stepdaughter Sienna showed up 40 minutes late. Didn't knock. Didn't greet anyone. Just walked in scrolling through her phone like she was entering a waiting room instead of a family dinner. She was 19, but she carried herself like the world owed her something. Maybe that's because her mother, my wife Keisha, had spent 19 years teaching her exactly that. I set the platter of brisket on the table. My niece Emma, 7 years old with pigtails and missing front teeth, actually gasped. "Uncle Caleb, this looks amazing." Marcus clapped me on the shoulder. Jenna was already serving herself. Then Sienna looked up from her phone, wrinkled her nose and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Ugh, this looks so basic. We couldn't just order sushi?" The table went silent. Emma looked confused. Marcus's jaw tightened. I felt something crack inside my chest, but I kept my voice calm. "Sienna, that's disrespectful. I worked hard on this meal." She rolled her eyes. "Whatever, Caleb." That's when Keisha spoke. Not to her daughter. To me. "She's not your daughter. Don't correct her." I stood up slowly. Every pair of eyes was on me. Marcus looked like he wanted to flip the table. Jenna's mouth had fallen open. I looked at Keisha, the woman I'd married 3 years ago, the woman I'd provided everything for, and I said 5 words that would haunt her forever. "You're absolutely right." Then I walked out of that dining room and closed the office door behind me. My hands weren't shaking. My heart wasn't racing. I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Clarity. I opened my laptop and started making a list. Please, before I continue, kindly like, share and subscribe for more interesting videos. I woke up the next morning before sunrise, same as always. Made coffee. Scrambled eggs. When Keisha came downstairs, I was humming. Actually humming. Some old Marvin Gaye song that had been stuck in my head. She stopped in the doorway watching me like I was a stranger. "Caleb." "Morning," I said, sliding a plate toward her. "Eggs? Are we okay?" Her voice had this edge to it like she was testing ice that might crack. I smiled. "Of course. Why wouldn't we be?" She didn't answer. Just sat down and picked at her food. I could feel her studying me, trying to figure out what I was thinking. Let her wonder. My phone buzzed. A text from Sienna. "Need $400 for concert tickets. Taylor Swift coming to town. Can you Venmo?" I looked at the message for a long moment. Read it twice. Then I set my phone face down on the counter and took another sip of coffee. Didn't respond. Keisha noticed. "Sienna text you?" "Yep." "You going to answer her?" "Nope." Something flickered across her face. Confusion maybe. Or the first whisper of fear. I grabbed my keys and jacket. "I've got some meetings today. Don't wait up." "Meetings?" "It's barely 7. "Early meetings," I said. "Important ones." I wasn't lying. I did have meetings. Just not the kind she was imagining. The law office was downtown, one of those old brick buildings with tall windows and leather furniture that smells like money and consequences. My lawyer, David Chin, was already waiting with coffee and a manila folder thick enough to stop a bullet. "You sure about this?" he asked, sliding the folder across his mahogany desk. I opened it. Lease agreements. Tuition payment records. Bank account statements. Credit card authorizations. Everything I'd signed over the past 3 years, every generous thing I'd done trying to be a good husband and stepfather, all organized and indexed like evidence in a trial. Because that's what this was. Evidence. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life," I said. David nodded slowly. He'd been my lawyer since before Keisha, back when I sold my cybersecurity company for $24 million and needed someone to help me not lose it all to taxes and bad decisions. He knew my history. Knew about Miranda, my first wife, the woman who'd worked herself to exhaustion keeping us afloat when my business was failing, the woman who died on an icy road coming home from her second job. He knew I didn't make decisions like this lightly. "The apartment lease is in your name only," David said, tapping a document. "You can terminate it with 30 days notice. The university tuition, you've been paying directly so you can stop payments immediately. The joint bank account, your primary holder. The credit cards, she's an authorized user on your accounts. So legally you owe them nothing. The prenup is airtight. Your premarital assets are protected. Everything you've given them since the marriage was voluntary. He paused. Caleb, this is going to devastate them. Good, I said. And I meant it. Sienna called me 3 days later. I was in the middle of a conference call when my phone lit up with her name. I let it ring. She called again. And again. On the 4th call, I excused myself from the meeting and answered. What? Not a question. A statement. Caleb, oh my God, you have to help me. Her voice was panicked, higher pitched than usual. My landlord just came to my apartment and said I have to move out. He said the lease was terminated and I have 30 days and I don't understand what's happening. I terminated it, I said calmly. Silence. Then, what? The lease was in my name. I called the property management company and terminated it. You have 30 days to vacate. You can't do that. She was screaming now. I could picture her face, red and blotchy, that same look she'd get as a kid when someone told her no. Keisha had shown me photos once, back when we first started dating, back when I thought I was joining a family instead of funding a lifestyle. I can actually, and I did. But where am I supposed to go? This is my apartment. It was never your apartment, Sienna. It was mine. I paid for it. My name on the lease. And now I've decided I don't want to pay for it anymore. Why are you doing this? She was crying now, big gasping sobs that might have moved me a week ago. Because you're not my daughter. I let those words hang there, let them sink in like stones. Your mother made that very clear. So I don't provide for you. Not anymore. Caleb, please. I hung up. My hands were steady. My conscience was clear. I thought about Miranda's journal, the one I'd kept in my desk drawer for 7 years. Her last entry had been about loyalty, about showing up when it's hard. I'd shown up for 3 years. I'd paid for everything. A luxury apartment near campus, $2,400 a month for a 2-bedroom with granite countertops and a view Sienna never appreciated. I'd paid her tuition at a private university, $62,000 a year for a degree she was barely earning because she spent more time partying than studying. I'd paid for her car insurance, her credit card bills, her spring break trips. And what had I gotten in return? Whatever, Caleb said with an eye roll, like I was an inconvenience instead of the reason she had a roof over her head. My phone rang again. Keisha this time. I let it go to voicemail. Then I texted David, first domino down. Proceed with the rest. He responded immediately, University Bursar's office has been notified. Payment reversal processed. She'll get the email tomorrow. Tomorrow. I smiled. Tomorrow was going to be interesting. That night, Keisha came home late. I was in the living room reading, actually reading, not just pretending. A biography of Ulysses S. Grant. Fascinating guy, really. Knew when to hold ground and when to burn it. Sienna called me, Keisha said. She was standing in the doorway, arms crossed. She said you're kicking her out of her apartment. I'm not kicking her out. I'm simply no longer paying for it. That's the same thing. Is it? I turned a page. Because seems to me if it was really her apartment, my decision wouldn't matter. Caleb, this is insane. You can't just. Can't just what? I closed the book and looked at her. Really looked at her. She was still beautiful, I give her that. Smooth dark skin, high cheekbones, hair that fell in perfect waves. That's what had attracted me first, 3 years ago at a charity fundraiser in Atlanta. She'd been charming, attentive, laughing at my jokes. She told me about her daughter, how hard it was being a single mom, how she just wanted to give Sienna a better life. I'd wanted to be that better life. Stupid. You told me she's not my daughter, I said quietly. You were right. She's not. So I'm done acting like she is. 2 days later, Sienna's world collapsed again. She texted me frantically, they're saying my tuition wasn't paid. There's some mistake. Can you call them? I didn't respond. An hour later, my phone exploded with calls. Sienna. Keisha. Sienna again. I silenced them all and went back to work. That evening, Sienna showed up at the house. She looked destroyed, mascara streaked, hair wild, still wearing pajama pants like she'd just rolled out of bed and driven straight here. The university unenrolled me, she said, voice breaking. They said the tuition payment was reversed. $62,000 just gone. They're dropping all my classes. I nodded. That's correct. Correct? Caleb, this is my education. Was it though? Last semester you got 2 C's in AD. The semester before that, you were on academic probation. $62,000 a year for that? Seems like a bad investment to me. You can't do this. Actually, I can. The payments came from my account. I simply stopped them. Keisha rushed in from the kitchen. Caleb, please, she'll lose her whole semester. She'll have to reapply. Then she'll reapply. I shrugged. Community college is affordable. She can get a job. Figure it out. Millions of students do. I can't believe you're being this cruel, Keisha said. Cruel? I felt something cold settle in my chest. Cruel was humiliating me at that dinner table. This is just me accepting reality. She's not my daughter. You said so yourself. So why would I pay for someone else's daughter to party at an expensive university? Sienna sank onto the couch, sobbing. Keisha looked at me like I was a monster. I felt nothing. We need to talk. Keisha's voice was steel the next morning. So talk, I said, pouring coffee. You're destroying her life. I'm not destroying anything. I'm just no longer building it for her. She's my daughter. Keisha's voice cracked. She made a mistake. She's 19. Teenagers say stupid things. And you? I turned to face her. What's your excuse? You're 41, Keisha. When you told me not to correct her, when you humiliated me in front of my family, was that a teenage mistake too? She flinched. I was wrong. I admit it. But this is too far. I pulled out the prenup from my briefcase and slid it across the counter. Read it. Page 7. All assets acquired before marriage remain separate. Everything I've given Sienna was voluntary. Every payment, every dollar. I owe her nothing legally. And after what you said, I owe her nothing morally either. Keisha picked up the document with shaking hands. I watched her eyes scan the pages, watched the realization dawn that she had no power here. She'd never had power. She'd had my generosity and she'd mistaken it for weakness. You planned this, she whispered. No. You planned this when you chose her disrespect over my dignity. I'm just executing the consequences. I could take you to court. Please do. My lawyer would love that. You signed this prenup after your own lawyer reviewed it. You knew what you were agreeing to. Her hands trembled. Caleb, please. You should have said please before. Now it's too late. Scene 6, the joint account closure. 4 days later, Keisha called me from a grocery store parking lot. My card declined. Okay, I said. Okay? Caleb, I tried 3 different cards. They all declined. What's going on? I closed our joint bank account. And you were an authorized user on my credit cards. I removed you. You what? Her voice pitched higher. How am I supposed to buy groceries? How am I supposed to live? The same way you did before you met me. You had a job once, remember? You could get another one. I quit my job when we got married. You said I didn't need to work. And you didn't? When you were my wife. When you treated me with respect. Things change. This is financial abuse. I laughed. Actually laughed. Financial abuse is controlling someone's money. I'm not controlling your money, Keisha. You don't have any. You never did. It was always mine. I shared it with you voluntarily. Now I'm choosing not to. So what am I supposed to do? Figure it out. You're a smart woman. Resourceful. You managed before me. I paused. Or maybe call Sienna. Oh wait, she can't help. She doesn't have any money either. Because I was the one providing for both of you, and you both forgot that. She was crying now. I said I was sorry. Sorry doesn't pay rent, Keisha. Sorry doesn't rebuild respect. I hung up. That night I sat in my office looking at old photos. There was one of Miranda and me at our tiny wedding. We'd gotten married at the courthouse with 2 witnesses. She'd worn a simple white dress from Target. I'd worn khakis and a button-down. We'd been so happy. She would have been disappointed in me for staying with Keisha this long. Marcus called that weekend. Man, Jenna told me what you're doing. She heard from Keisha's sister. And I get it. What Keisha said at dinner was messed up. But you're going nuclear. They nuked me first, I said calmly. I'm just making sure there's nothing left to rebuild on lies. Sienna's a kid. Sienna's 19. Old enough to vote, old enough to serve in the military, old enough to know not to disrespect people. I could hear Marcus breathing on the other end. You saw what happened, Marcus. You were there. She insulted food I spent all day making. I tried to address it like an adult. And my wife, told me not to correct her because she's not my daughter. I know. That was wrong. So don't tell me I'm going too far. I provided for that girl for 3 years. Paid for everything. Never asked for gratitude. Just basic respect. And when I didn't even get that, when my own wife sided against me publicly, What was I supposed to do? Keep funding their lifestyle? Marcus sighed. Just don't lose yourself in revenge, bro. I'm not losing myself. I'm finding myself. For 3 years I bet. I compromised. I swallowed disrespect because I wanted to be a good stepfather. You know what that got me? Used. I hear you. Do you? Because everyone wants to tell me I'm wrong, but nobody was there. Nobody felt what I felt sitting at that table. I was there, Marcus said quietly. And if I'm honest, if Jenna ever did that to me, I'd probably do worse. After we hung up, I opened my desk drawer and pulled out Miranda's journal. The leather was worn now, soft from years of handling. I flipped to the last entry. Her handwriting was shaky, she'd been so tired that day. Caleb doesn't know I'm exhausted. But I'd do it all again. That's what love is, showing up when it's hard. I'd shown up. For 3 years I'd shown up. Now I was showing them the door. Sienna appeared at my office on a Tuesday afternoon. My assistant buzzed me. There's a young woman here. Says she's your stepdaughter. She's crying. Send her in. She looked terrible. No makeup, hair in a messy bun, wearing sweatpants and an oversized hoodie. Her eyes were red and swollen. She'd been crying for days probably. Caleb, she started, voice cracking. I'm so sorry. I was awful to you. I was disrespectful and ungrateful and I took everything for granted. Please, I'll do anything. I'll apologize to your family. I'll call your brother. Please help me. I studied her for a long moment. Watched her fidget with her sleeves. Watched tears stream down her face. And I asked her one question. Are you sorry for what you did? Or are you sorry you lost what I gave you? She opened her mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. Both? That hesitation told me everything. The fact that you had to think about it, I said quietly, tells me you're not actually sorry. You're desperate. There's a difference. That's not fair. Life isn't fair, Sienna. You taught me that at dinner when you insulted food I worked on all day. Your mother taught me that when she chose your disrespect over my dignity. Please don't do this, she sobbed. I'm not doing anything. You and your mother already did it. I'm just accepting the reality you both created. I'll change. I promise. People don't change because they promise. They change because they face consequences. Consider this your education in consequences. I stood up. You need to leave now. She didn't move, just sat there crying. I walked to the door and held it open. Finally, she stood, stumbling slightly. As she passed me, she whispered, I really am sorry. I believe you, I said. But it doesn't matter anymore. 2 weeks after everything fell apart, Keisha came home late. I was in the living room. She looked exhausted, defeated. Her sister had probably loaned her money for gas. Caleb. She sat down across from me. I was wrong. Completely wrong. I should have supported you. I should have corrected Sienna myself. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I set down my book. You're not sorry. You're scared. That's not true. It is true. You're not sorry about what you did. You're sorry about what you lost. There's a massive difference. How can you say that? Tears streamed down her face. I loved you. Did you? Or did you love what I provided? I leaned forward. Be honest, Keisha. When's the last time you did something for me that wasn't transactional? When's the last time you defended me instead of your daughter? When's the last time you chose me? She couldn't answer. You want to know what the saddest part is? I continued. I would have forgiven almost anything. If you'd come to me after that dinner and said, I was wrong, I shouldn't have said that, we could have worked through it. But you didn't. You doubled down. You acted like I was the problem for wanting basic respect in my own home. I know. You're right. And I'm telling you now, I was wrong. 2 weeks too late. So that's it? 3 years of marriage and you're just done? No, Keisha. You were done the second those words came out of your mouth. I'm just the one signing the paperwork. I pulled an envelope from beside the couch and slid it across the coffee table. Divorce papers. My lawyer will be in touch. Her hand shook as she picked up the envelope. You'd really throw everything away? I'm not throwing anything away. You already did. I'm just acknowledging it. The divorce was surprisingly quick. Keisha didn't fight it. Couldn't fight it. The prenup was airtight and she knew it. David handled everything efficiently. She's agreed to all terms. No alimony, no division of assets. She signed this morning. How'd she look? I don't know why I asked. Tired? Defeated? He paused. Her lawyer tried to argue emotional distress, but there's no legal standing. You didn't abuse her. You just stopped providing for her voluntarily. And Sienna? Enrolled at community college. Working part-time at a coffee shop. Apparently she moved back in with her mother. They're renting a 2-bedroom apartment across town. Good. Let them figure out how the real world works. I signed the final papers on a Thursday afternoon. The pen felt heavy in my hand, but not because I was sad. Because it felt final. Official. The end of something that should have never begun. That evening, I drove to the cemetery where Miranda was buried. I hadn't been in months. Too busy playing house with a woman who never valued me. I sat on the grass next to her headstone. "I'm sorry," I told her. "I'm sorry I forgot the lessons you taught me. I'm sorry I let someone treat me like an ATM instead of a partner." The wind rustled through the trees. Birds sang. The world kept moving. But I remembered, I continued. I remembered that loyalty isn't conditional. That respect isn't optional. That love means showing up, not just taking. I pulled her journal from my jacket pocket. "Read that last entry one more time." Then I closed it and stood up. "I'm going to be okay," I told her. Finally. 6 months later, I ran into them at a grocery store. I was shopping for dinner, just me now, living in a smaller house closer to downtown, when I heard a familiar voice in the next aisle. I turned the corner and there they were. Keisha and Sienna, both looking at price tags, comparing generic brands to name brands. They looked tired. Worn down. Keisha's hair wasn't styled like it used to be. Sienna wasn't wearing designer clothes. Keisha saw me first. Her eyes went wide. "Caleb." "Keisha," I nodded politely. How are you?" "Good. Really good, actually." And I meant it. The last 6 months had been peaceful. No drama. No walking on eggshells. Just me, my work, my brother's family, and books I'd been meaning to read for years. "We're managing," she said, even though I hadn't asked. "Sienna's in school. Community college. She's doing well. Working too. We have an apartment." Sienna still wouldn't look at me. "That's good," I said. "Hard work builds character." Keisha's eyes filled with tears. "We lost everything." I looked at her for a long moment. "No, Keisha. You lost me. Everything else? You never earned it." Her face crumpled. Sienna finally looked up, and I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Genuine remorse. Real understanding. Too late. I pushed my cart past them and continued shopping. Behind me, I heard Keisha crying softly. I didn't look back. At the checkout, the cashier was friendly. The sun was shining when I walked outside. My car started on the first try. Life was good. People asked me if I regret what I did. My brother asked. Old friends asked. Even my therapist asked. The answer is always the same: I regret staying as long as I did. I'm in my home office now, the smaller one in my new place. It's actually better than the old office. More windows, better light. Miranda's journal sits on my desk next to a photo of us from our wedding day. We looked so young. So hopeful. She taught me loyalty, I say out loud even though no one's listening. Keisha taught me boundaries. My phone buzzes. A text from Marcus: "Sunday dinner this week? Jenna's making pot roast. Kids want to see you." I smile and type back, "I'll bring dessert." This is what family looks like. People who value you. People who respect you. People who don't treat your generosity like an obligation. I open my laptop and look at my bank account. The number is substantial. Not as substantial as it was 3 years ago. Funding Keisha and Sienna's lifestyle had cost me probably $300,000 total, but still healthy. Still growing. More importantly, it's mine. All mine. No authorized users. No joint accounts. No one spending money I earned while treating me like hired help. I think about Keisha sometimes. Wonder if she's okay. Wonder if Sienna ever really understood what she lost. Then I remember that they had 3 years to figure it out. 3 years of me providing everything, asking for nothing but basic respect. They chose differently. Outside my window, birds are singing. The sun is setting, painting the sky orange and pink. I'm making salmon for dinner, just for me, and I'm going to eat it while reading a book I've wanted to read for 2 years but never had time because I was too busy managing other people's drama. Tomorrow Marcus and I are playing golf. Next week, I'm flying to Colorado for a hiking trip I've been planning. Next month, I'm volunteering at a youth coding camp, teaching kids the skills that made me successful. I'm living again. Not just existing. Not just funding someone else's life while mine passes by. They thought I'd break when I stood up from that dinner table. They thought I'd come crawling back when I cut them off. They thought my kindness was weakness. They were wrong. I rebuilt. And this time I built walls they'll never cross again. Not because I'm bitter. Not because I'm cruel. Because I finally learned to require the respect I'd been giving away for free. The sun dips below the horizon. I close Miranda's journal and put it back in the drawer. Then I pour myself a glass of wine, put on some Miles Davis and smile. I'm free. And that's better than anything else.